Thank you, Kenny. Some of you have probably heard me refer to Kenny as my brother. And the beautiful thing is, no matter where you're at, and the reason why I tell you that is no matter where you're at, losses and gains and celebrations and relationships in your life, when you're here, I feel like this is an advertisement for a restaurant. When you're here, you're family, right? That's a restaurant. It sounds familiar. But it's real here, right? When I come here, I'm not the only one who said it, but when I'm here, this is my home, right? You're my people. You're my family. And I know I'm not the only one who feels that way. And so if you are here today and you're like, I need a mother figure, I need a father figure, I wish that I could mother or father, or, you fill in the blanks. There's something in your earthly family that's missing. I just want to tell you there's a space for you. We need you. When we follow Jesus, he gives us the desires of our heart. And sometimes those desires don't come in the time or the way that we expect. But I will say that I always wanted an older brother. I feel really soft this morning, so, here we are. I always wanted an older brother. And I think really what I wanted was someone to look out for me and actually care for who I am. And so Kenny is my older brother. And so if you hear that, that's why. He is my brother, not by blood, but in heart as a gift, right? A gift of being in the family of God. And my mom, I'm so thankful, is still alive, but she lives in Texas. And so some of you have mothered me, Some of you have been my brothers and sisters, my mentors. And so whatever it is you're missing, I know it's not the same, right? But in some ways it can be richer if there's something that you need that is lacking in your earthly family. In the family of God, it's available. And so one of the things we're going to look at this morning, we're talking about Mary and Martha, which it's just a few verses. And it doesn't tell us what to do with the lesson, and we're going to get there in just a minute. But one of the things we're going to look at as we look at the story is we see a picture of God as our mother. And so whoever your mother is or was, if you are a mother or you want to be a mother or you don't know how to mother, there are stories, there are pieces of the Bible that show us how God wants to mother us. So whatever you have or don't have, no matter how amazing your earthly mother was or wasn't, there's always going to be something missing because we're humans. But God wants to mother you in the ways that even the best mom is going to miss. Okay? So we're going to look at that a little bit today. We know, and we'll keep addressing, Mother's Day is a little complicated. We come in, sometimes it can feel even, we have all these obligations to fill, even as a day that's supposed to be celebratory, right? We have to go to brunch and you have to get the gifts and we have to behave a certain way. We need to be on, and what are you doing that other people are going to be impressed with? And how is the day going to go? And it feels like pressure even in the celebration And we're going to look at the story of Mary and Martha, and it's a lot like that. So whatever you carried in here this morning, whether it's joy or grief or longing or numbness or something you don't even have words for, I just want you to know let's just set aside that needing to perform, needing to be, needing to impress. If that is weighing on you this morning, let's just set that aside for a minute. Wherever you are, whatever feelings you do or do not have, let's come as you are. So before we go anywhere else, I just want to show you one of the pictures that we see of God as our mother. Isaiah 49:15. I want you to hear this. It says, "Can a mother forget the baby at her breast and have no compassion on the child she has born? Though she may forget, I will not forget you." So God uses the most primal human bond imaginable, a nursing mother and her child, and says, I'm like that. And I go farther than that. Because even your human moms who were trying our best, I promise you, we're trying our best, and we are going to fail sometimes. And even if what you needed most wasn't there, God doesn't forget you. He doesn't miss a thing. So wherever you're at, whatever you need, whatever's on your heart, you are not forgotten, and God is not missing you. He sees it. You are seen by a God who on purpose chose maternal language to describe the depth of that love. So I want to give you a quick update. The last time I stood up here, I told you that I was going to run a 50-kilometer ultramarathon. You may have remembered a bag of Skittles up here, right? 31 miles through the mountains, or by Colorado standards, maybe hills, of Oregon. And I just want to tell you, I'm just going to give you a quick update. I did it. Thank you. So, I don't know if fun is the right word to use. I went back to school in my 30s to pursue a career that I love in counseling. I've learned that I can stand up here and share what God has taught me for the benefit, hopefully, of the body of Christ. I've learned that I can do hard things in my relationships and continue to pursue health and reach more and more I can be part more and more of God's kingdom on earth right now. And yet, there was still something stuck in my mind and my heart that says you can't. And so I really believe, I've always loved meeting with God through movement and especially outside. And I really feel like I was invited by God into this process goal to do this thing that sounds nuts if you are not in the trail running world, or you don't, or previously did not know anyone who ran a 50K. But he used that to break up what I think is the rest of that block. Healing kind of comes in layers, so we'll see, but I don't feel that I can't anymore. I didn't just get the idea to run the 50K out of nowhere. I moved to Colorado 9 years ago, and I had no idea what a 50K was, or trail running, or any of that was, but over time, I was introduced to it, and I saw other people running trails, and I talked to other people who had run 50Ks, and y'all, Colorado has some wild ideas, right? But over time, as I watched people do it, I thought, I wonder if I could. And it was this far off goal of like, maybe one day. So one thing I want you all to know is, and you may or may not regret gifting me a certain something on Pastor's Appreciation Day. You helped make this experience possible, because when you all gave me that gift card for Pastor's Appreciation, I went and used it for the registration for my race. I may never get a Pastor's Appreciation gift again if you know that's how I'm using it, but you made it possible for me. You were part of the many people who made it possible for me to do this thing that brought me on this journey with God, to have this idea of maybe I could break these barriers that say I can't, and maybe I could try that. And then you gave me this little gift, and I signed up, and I did one training run at a time. God used that race to give me a lot more gifts than I'm going to talk about up here. But if you want to talk more, we will have bagels in the youth room afterwards if you want to join me and chat more. So when I finished, I had a smile on my face for so many reasons. But first, the race was really just a celebration of the process that I'd been with God for over a year. The second was that I was not in any way alone when I crossed that finish line. No one person ran the whole race with me, but so many people were with me along the way. They cheered me on. I had a coach. Many people supported me on my long run, specifically my family, my husband and my kids. Okay, go do your crazy thing. We'll be here when you get back. They supported my long naps, all the extra food that I needed. While no one person ran the whole race with me, I was encouraged the whole time through my training by my husband and my kids, and then by my coach, who always encouraged me to prioritize my relationships with God and the people who are most important to me above training. What it took for me to cross that finish line, and more important, to allow the block that says I can't to break down when God calls me to do something, was to follow the example of others who did something that seems nuts. And then it was to allow my ideas of what's possible to be redirected over time. It was to lay down everything that might not get done in the wake of following this wild idea and seek after what was most important in that moment. Okay, so my priorities during the training was family, work, training, right? And so, yeah, sometimes my house was pretty messy, right? But this was what was most important in the moment, to follow after God, what God had to give me. So one of my questions for you this morning is, what if we didn't have to get everything done first before we follow Jesus? And what if we don't have to earn it? What if we don't have to prove it or hold ourselves together before we take him up on his invitation? What if we just lace up and see what's possible? So we're going to go look at a scene in a house in Bethany. So in Luke chapter 10, verses 38 to 42, we're going to look at, it's not even a whole story, but we're going to look at an excerpt of a story that we see in the book of Luke. Now, this is all we see of this story. We're left to sort of fill in some of the gaps ourselves or glean what we can. But we're going to read about two people you may have heard of, Mary and Martha. It says, as Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, "Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me." "Martha, Martha," the Lord answered, "you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her." Let's talk about our friend Martha for a little bit. She gets a bad rap, but here's the thing. Our text says that Martha opened up her home to Jesus and his disciples. So in this context, this is Mary's home. She would be the matriarch of the home, and the expectation is that she would have to do this thorough preparation for a visit from a rabbi and his disciples. So that included everything, right? She's wanting to honor him with everything that she has. So she's running around doing all the things to make sure that Jesus and his disciples are comfortable, that they have what they need, that they're fed, that they feel welcome, that the environment is welcoming, right? So she's getting all of this done, and normally Mary would probably be helping her, but she's sitting at the feet of Jesus. And we'll get to Mary in a moment. But there were no modern conveniences at this time. That meant hauling wood for the fire, starting and tending it, hauling water for drinking, hauling water for washing feet, cooking somewhere in there, making sure all that food is prepared for all these people in a time when takeout was not an option, okay? So Martha's not doing anything wrong. She's doing what she was taught to do. She's doing what is expected. In fact, she's hustling to serve and honor the Son of God with everything that she has. In first century Judea, how well she hosted an important rabbi would have reflected not only on her home, but her whole town. That is a lot of weight. Her work would either bring shame or honor to her household and the entire town of Bethany. So Martha is not scurrying around with no reason, right? She has plenty of reason to be frustrated that she's the only one trying to get everything done. She has plenty of reason to be stressed that there is so much to do to accommodate these people. So in this story, also to highlight that, the story just before this one in Luke, Jesus had just told the parable of the Good Samaritan, which, as a reminder, is a story of radical, costly, embodied love through action toward people. And here's Martha hustling to serve the Savior of the world. She is doing everything right by all accounts. Everything she was taught, everything that was expected, everything that a good and faithful woman was supposed to do when a rabbi and his disciples came to dinner. But we see Jesus look at her and he notices something. The Greek word, could you put that slide of Luke 10 back up? So we're looking at the NIV right now. It says Martha was distracted, right? But the Greek word is, those of you who are scholars, you can correct me later, but I did practice this. I'm going to try my best. Miriam now, which means to be pulled apart, divided, or fragmented. So he sees Martha and he says, you are being fragmented by all the stuff that is on your shoulders. Right? He sees her. He sees what's happening. She's worried and distracted by many things. Martha isn't failing. She's being undone by the expectations that have been put on her shoulders by other people, and perhaps also, most likely, adopted by her because that's what she knows. So of course she's being undone by it, right? What other options does she she have. She's carrying the shame or the honor of her entire town on her shoulders as she provides for Jesus, his 12 disciples, and the uncounted, because women weren't counted during this time of writing, number of female disciples he had who traveled with him. So her complaint to Jesus, and we can take the slide back down, but her complaint to Jesus is, don't you care? And it's real. There's genuine pain in it. There's genuine exhaustion, the loneliness of being the one who keeps everything running while everyone else seems to just sit there. Can you feel that? When you really think about all the things that Martha was holding in her body, it feels like tightness to me. It feels like anxiety to me of like, oh my goodness, that's so much. Can you empathize with Martha? I would bet that many people in this room know exactly what that feels like. We're going to look at Mary for a minute. She's not doing anything wrong either. She's sitting at Jesus' feet. So in the first century, this was the formal posture of, the word is Talmud, which is a disciple. So it's the same language that Paul uses in Acts 22 when he describes his own education. He says he was brought up at the feet of Gamaliel. So to sit at a rabbi's feet was to say, I'm here to learn, I belong in this circle. And that circle in this time, in first century Judea, was reserved for men. But Jesus had already shown he operates by a different set of rules. Mary almost certainly wasn't taught to leave all the work to her sister, and she wasn't lazy. But if we were to turn a few pages back to Luke 8, we can see that by the time Jesus arrived at Martha's house, he had already been traveling with named women, Mary Magdalene, Joanna, Susanna, and others as part of his company. Joanna is worth pausing on for a moment. She was the wife of the manager of Herod's household, a woman of significant social standing from the heart of the political establishment, who left that world to follow Jesus on the road. The cost of her reputation and her social position, everything she had been given, was considerable. And she went anyway. In fact, it is very likely that she paved the way for Mary to feel like she belonged at Jesus' feet. Just because other people have done it, though, doesn't mean it's easy or without sacrifice. Something in Mary is compelled to move towards Jesus, as he and others like Joanna have already made a way for her to do. So if Mary's choice was informed and deliberate, then Martha's frustration becomes in some ways even more understandable and maybe more poignant because she knows what Mary is doing. She knows the precedent that Jesus has set. She is potentially surrounded by evidence that Jesus welcomes women as disciples, and she is standing in the kitchen, not because she's foolish or faithless, but because the pull of the expected role is that strong. Because someone has to do it. How else is everything going to get done? She is doing what she has to do when a rabbi comes to dinner. So what we see in Martha is not a character flaw. What we see is the weight of a lifetime of formation. And that kind of formation can be so strong that a person can know that the door is open and still feel like it's not for them. I know what that feels like. I wonder if something comes to mind for you. Like the door is open for everyone else. right? I've talked about that from up here in the past, just by getting to speak to you. Other women can lead, but not me. A lifetime of formation, I love to talk about the brain, puts ruts in your brain of like, this is the way we go. But Jesus isn't revealing anything new to Martha when he says that only one thing is needed. He's inviting her into something she may have already seen, but hasn't had formed into her yet. So let's reread those verses again in Luke 10. And we're going to look at Martha. Pay attention to what's going on with Martha this time. So it says, as Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted, fragmented by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, Lord, don't you care that my sister left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her to help me. Martha, Martha, the Lord answered, you are worried and upset about many things. But few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. So we see he says her name twice, Martha, Martha. In the gospel, when Jesus says someone's name twice, it's not a rebuke. It's tenderness. It is the sound of being deeply seen. He's not shaming her. He's inviting her. He's holding open a door. Only one thing is needed. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken from her. That last phrase is protective language. So he feels such tenderness toward Martha, but also to Mary. He's advocating for Mary. He's not just permitting her to be in his presence. He's defending it. She belongs here. Her learning matters. Her presence in this circle matters, and not just her productivity, not just when we get to eat. Her. And all the other have-tos and shoulds can wait. This is the same Jesus who just chapters later in Matthew, he reaches for maternal language to describe his own longing for us. In Matthew 23:37, he says, how often have I longed to gather your children together, as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings. The one defending Mary's right to belong is the same one who says, I'm like a mother hen. I'm trying to gather you. Come here. Get under my wings. I got you. So to Martha, beloved and exhausted, he's opening a door. Would you come and sit with me for a minute? There's room. And to Mary, he's saying, you chose the right thing, and I won't let anyone take it from you. What do you think might be going through Martha's heart and mind as Jesus invites her in? He says she's worried about many things, which we've already said makes sense. I'm wondering how her nervous system is doing, right? All her life, she's been taught to work one way. She's been formed by a system that told her what was expected, what the rules were, what the cost of not following them would be. Jesus has identified that all of that weight is fragmenting her. But she doesn't know how everything will work out if she pauses her frantic work to just be present with him. How is everything going to get done if I don't do it right now? Sound familiar? I feel like a lot of us can relate, maybe all of us. If I take time to just be, to let Jesus care for me, to mother me, to father me, how will the bills get paid? How will everyone get where they need to go? Someone has to make the meals. What if I miss a text from a friend? How will I get all my assignments done? We don't have time to sit and let God lead us and to be with him, to share our burdens, to let him speak to us. There's always something demanding our time, and so much of it is good. It's good work, what Martha's doing. So much of what you and I are doing is good work. Unfortunately, our text doesn't tell us how everyone would get fed and taken care of if Martha decided to come join Jesus. It doesn't tell us how it all worked out. It doesn't even tell us what Martha decided. It only says that joining him would be the better choice. There's tension in there. Truth be told, I was a little bit nervous to share this morning because we feel it. We live in this tension of needing to do and get done all the things. And to sit and be a whole human being feels impossible sometimes. But here's what I keep coming back to. The story just before the Good Samaritan, just 2 chapters before Jesus walks into Martha's house, is the feeding of the 5,000. Mind you, it was way more than 5,000. It was 5,000 men, plus women and children. Jesus takes 5 loaves of bread and he takes 2 fishes, and one person's lunch becomes lunch for thousands of people with lots and lots of leftovers. So the same Jesus who is standing in Martha's kitchen telling her to come sit down is the one who just multiplied one lunch into a feast for thousands. He's not unaware that people need to eat. He's not unaware that we have needs, that bills need to get paid. He's not naive about the real work of sustaining life. Like, he's not one of those YouTube influencers that are telling you how to manage your time, but their whole day is making YouTube videos, right? He grew up as a carpenter. He grew up as a carpenter who worked in his family for sustenance, to be able to be fed and to help take care of his family. Like, that's how it was set up. He knows what this is like. He knows what we need. He's not speaking from like a high and mighty place. So he knows, and he still says this is the better choice. Jesus operates from a different math than Martha and most of us have been formed by. His math says what you bring is enough. What you have to give and still be a full person, meet me with your whole self, that's enough. So your constant hustle is not the thing, surprise, holding everything together. Jesus says, I am the thing holding everything together. Right? He fed thousands of people with just a little bit of food. You know, the disciples were thinking the same thing you and I are thinking. Great, if I take that time, if I really, really just give my trust to Jesus and let him lead me, how's everything going to get taken care of? They had the same question. Let them go get their own lunch. We can't do that. Jesus says, watch me. He didn't explain it first. So our sermon series right now is called Take Heart. So in a biblical context, to take heart means to receive courage and hope and let God direct your path. What if the courage he is inviting you and I in today is to let him be the one in charge? To let him be the one who directs us into everything that needs to get done. And I will be honest, I think we can agree it's scary to accept such an invitation. We don't know how things are going to end up, and a lot of times they're not going to end up how we would have picked. So if Mary came to sit with Jesus, who knows? Maybe dinner would have gotten burned. I don't know. If somehow, maybe she did end up bringing shame on her village. We don't know. We don't know how Jesus worked it all out. All we know is that he could and he would if she said yes. So we see Jesus in this story trying to gather his chicks like a mother hen. He isn't named as a mother here in this story of Mary and Martha, but that's what he's doing. He's saying, come here. I see what's going on with you. Come sit. The deepest kind of mothering, the kind that lasts and forms people, and the kind that reflects something true about the character of God, doesn't flow from a title. It's not fragmented. It flows from being before doing, from having sat at the feet of Jesus before pouring out, and from having been being held before holding others. Isaiah says God is like a mother who cannot forget her nursing child. Jesus describes himself as a hen desperate to gather her chicks. Paul tells the Thessalonians, we didn't even get there, that his own ministry felt like a nursing mother caring for her children. The Christian tradition has sometimes not made this face of God so prominent, but it was always in our scriptures. And it means that everyone in this room who has ever stayed with someone in the slog, who's ever shown up when it cost something, who has ever refused to forget someone the world overlooked, has been doing something that looks like God. That includes the women who are exhausted from holding everything together. It includes the men who have quietly, faithfully formed people who will never call them on this day to say thanks for mothering me. But that's what you're doing. Mothering, fathering, nurturing. It includes the teenagers performing a version of themselves they're not sure is real. It includes everyone carrying grief today. The loss, the longing, the complicated love that doesn't fit on a greeting card. Jesus is not asking you to perform your way through this. He's saying, Martha, Martha, fill in your name. Can you imagine that? With all the tenderness in the world, you are worried about so many things. Those things are real. But come, there is the one thing that's the most important, and I will not take it from you. So I want to we're just going to take a brief chance to practice the thing that we've been talking about. We spend a lot of time in church learning about sitting with Jesus, and I want us to try it right now, together. We are going to give your heart and mind something to grab onto when your deep-rooted formation says, wait, shouldn't I be doing something else? So in a moment, I'm going to ask you to get as comfortable as you can. Try to get your feet on the floor if you can. If you can't reach, it's okay. I understand. I'm with you. I can't always reach the floor either. But get as comfortable as you can and just let your chair hold you. Notice the places in your body where you are holding yourself up. And I just want you to let go. And if you're comfortable, you can close your eyes. And if it helps you be more open to what we're practicing, being in the presence of Jesus, you can open your hands. But what we're trying to do in this moment is just make it as possible as you can to just be. So we're sitting, we're going to practice being in the presence of Jesus. So we're not performing. Keep that in mind. You don't have to think a certain thing, feel a certain thing. This isn't magic. We're not expecting you to have a certain reaction. Okay? But what I want to give you is something to take home with you that's like, okay, I know what this is like. I can go back to this. I can practice this. Okay? So a few things to hold. Mary didn't sit at Jesus' feet because she had it all figured out. She just moved towards him. So if something comes up, a worry, a grief, something you've been carrying, you don't have to fix it right now. Just notice it and set it down next to him, next to Jesus. You can hand it to him if you want, and you two can deal with it later if you need to. So if you need a question to guide you, Jesus, what do I need today? What is it that you want to give me? So I'm going to be quiet for a couple of minutes and just let you be with Jesus.